The wedding photo shattered against the wall, glass exploding across the hardwood floor of our living room. I hadn't meant to throw it. My hands had simply betrayed me. Just like they had. My chest heaved as I stared at the wreckage. The silver frame bent. The image of 3 smiling faces now bisected by a jagged crack. Me in the middle, Olivia on my left, James on my right. All of us beaming on what should have been the happiest day of my life. Now, the symbolism was almost too obvious to bear. I dropped to my knees, barely feeling the glass bite into my skin as I picked up the photograph with trembling fingers. My vision blurred with tears as I traced the outline of Olivia's face, her auburn hair, her bright smile, those green eyes I'd trusted for 15 years, the maid of honor, my sister in everything but blood. The message thread still glowed on my phone screen where I'd left it on the coffee table. I couldn't look at it again, couldn't bear to read those words one more time, but they were already burned into my memory. Every intimate exchange, every betrayal, every lie. I miss the taste of you, he'd written to her. My husband to my best friend. Tonight, our place. She'll never know. But I did know, and knowing was destroying me from the inside out. I clutched the broken photo to my chest and finally allowed myself to scream. 6 months earlier, Eliza Bennett, if you don't get your sleep-deprived ass out of that chair right now, I'm going to physically drag you, Olivia declared, leaning dramatically against the doorframe of my home office. Her auburn hair was styled in loose waves, and she wore a fitted black dress that made her look like she'd stepped straight off a runway. I groaned, glancing at the clock on my computer screen. It was already 7:30 p.m., and I'd promised to meet her at 8 o'clock for dinner. The Morrison proposal isn't going to finish itself, I said, gesturing at my laptop where spreadsheets and financial projections cluttered the screen. The Morrison proposal isn't going to die if you give it a 4-hour break, Olivia countered, striding into the room and spinning my chair away from the desk. But you might die of chronic overwork, and then who's going to be my best friend? Some basic suburban mom who thinks wine o'clock is the height of rebellion. I laughed despite myself. This was why I loved Olivia Reed. We'd been inseparable since freshman year of college when we bonded over terrible dorm food and a mutual hatred of our Econ 101 professor. 15 years later, she still knew exactly how to pull me out of my own head. Fine, fine. I saved my work and closed the laptop. Let me change. Wear the blue dress, Olivia said as she followed me to the bedroom. The one that makes your eyes pop. James likes that one, I murmured, pulling the dress from my closet. Olivia flopped onto my king-sized bed. How is the handsome husband? Anyway, still saving lives and breaking hearts at Metro General. Mostly just exhausted, I said, disappearing into the bathroom to change. He's on the night shift rotation this month. That's why he couldn't join us tonight. It had been like this for the past 3 years since James had become an attending physician in the emergency department. Our schedules rarely aligned, me with my investment banking hours, him with his erratic hospital shifts. Sometimes it felt like we were ships passing in the night, leaving notes and texts instead of having actual conversations. When I emerged from the bathroom, Olivia whistled Damn girl, if your husband doesn't appreciate that dress, I know at least 3 guys at Embers who will. I rolled my eyes as I slipped on my heels. I'm a happily married woman. Live. Happily married doesn't mean dead, she retorted. Besides, a little harmless flirtation is good for the soul, keeps the spark alive. I didn't respond as I grabbed my clutch. Olivia had always been the wild one, the friend who pushed boundaries and lived in the moment. She'd had a string of relationships over the years but never seemed to settle down. Sometimes I envied her freedom, even as I cherished the stability I'd built with James. You're awfully quiet, Olivia observed as we headed downstairs. Everything okay with you and James? I hesitated. James and I hadn't had a real date night in over a month. Our conversations had grown shorter, more practicala. Who would pick up groceries? Had the electricity bill been paid? Could he please remember to take out the trash? The passionate discussions about life and dreams that had marked our early relationship had gradually disappeared under the weight of our careers. We're fine, I said finally. Just busy. Olivia linked her arm through mine as we stepped outside. Well, tonight you're mine. No work, no husband, no responsibility as just 2 fabulous women painting the town various shades of red. I smiled, grateful for her presence. I've missed you, Liv. I've missed you too, Liza, she said, her voice softening. Now let's go get drunk enough to make questionable decisions but sober enough to remember them tomorrow. Embers was packed when we arrived, the trendy downtown restaurant humming with Friday night energy. Olivia had somehow snagged us a booth near the Windwa Euro, another example of her mysterious ability to make things happen through sheer force of will. 2 dirty martinis, she told the waitress before I could even look at the menu. Extra olives for this one. She nodded toward me. You know me too well, I said, relaxing for the first time in days. That's what happens when you've seen someone through their awkward bangs phase, to horrible breakups, and a wedding that nearly gave both of us hives. She leaned forward, eyes sparkling. Speaking of which, I have news. Good news, or, oh my god, Olivia, what were you thinking news? I asked warily. She grinned. I got the Seattle job, Senior Creative Director at Horizon Advertising, Live. I gasped. That's amazing. When do you start? 3 weeks, she said, which is why I insisted on dinner tonight. I'm going to be drowning in packing and apartment hunting. A pang of sadness hit me. Seattle was a 3-hour flight away. After 15 years of having my best friend within driving distance, the prospect of that distance felt daunting. I'm going to miss you so much, I admitted. Oh please, Olivia waved dismissively, like you could get rid of me. That is There are these magical inventions called airplanes, and phones, and video calls. Our drinks arrived, and she raised her glass. 2 new adventures and old friends. 2 new adventures, I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. As the evening progressed, we fell into our familiar rhythm, Euro laughing, sharing stories, reminiscing about college days. Olivia regaled me with tales of her latest dating disasters while I caught her up on office politics. It felt good to be just Eliza again, not the senior financial analyst or James's wife, but simply a woman enjoying dinner with her oldest friend. So, Olivia said as we waited for dessert, her tone suddenly serious. Are you going to tell me what's really going on with you and James, or are we pretending everything's sunshine and rainbows? I sighed. Olivia had always been able to see through me. I don't know, Liv. It's like, we've become roommates who occasionally have sex, when we're both awake enough. I traced the rim of my water glass. I love him. I do, but sometimes I wonder if this is all there is. Europe, if the rest of our lives is just going to be parallel careers and polite conversations about household chores. Olivia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Have you talked to him about it? I shook my head. When would I? He comes home exhausted from saving lives, and I'm supposed to complain that he doesn't look at me the way he used to. Yes, Olivia said firmly. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Your feelings matter, Liza, your happiness matters. It's not that simple. It never is, she agreed, but nothing changes if nothing changes. I nodded, knowing she was right but unsure how to bridge the growing distance between James and me. Double quotes, maybe ... Olivia hesitated, then plunged ahead. Maybe you two need to shake things up. A vacation? Or even just a weekend away. That's actually not a bad idea, I admitted. His birthday is coming up next month. I could plan something. See, this is why you keep me around. Olivia's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, a slight frown crossing her face before she tucked it away. Everything okay? I asked. Just work stuff, she said dismissively. Now, about this birthday getaway, I'm thinking somewhere with beaches, cocktails, and very little clothing. The rest of the night dissolved into laughter and plans a Euro. Olivia insisting on helping me organize the perfect surprise for James, me promising to visit her in Seattle once she was settled. By the time we hugged goodbye outside my house, some of the weight I'd been carrying had lifted. Love you, Liza B., Olivia said as she climbed into her Uber. Love you too, Liv, I called back, watching until her car disappeared around the corner. Inside, the house was dark and quiet. James wouldn't be home until morning. I kicked off my heels and made my way upstairs. The emptiness of our bedroom suddenly more noticeable than usual. On impulse, I took out my phone and texted James. Asterisk had dinner with Olivia tonight. She's moving to Seattle. Miss you, hope your shift is going okay. Asterisk, I didn't expect a response via Euro. The ER on a Friday night would be chaotic. But as I was removing my makeup, my phone chimed. Asterisk, miss you too. Tell Olivia congrats. See you in the morning. Love you. Asterisk, it was brief. Typical James. But it made me smile anyway. Maybe Olivia was right. Maybe we just needed to reconnect, to remember why we'd fallen in love in the first place. As I drifted off to sleep, I was already mentally planning our getaway Euro, a long weekend at the beachfront cottage where we'd spent our honeymoon. It would be perfect. Just the two of us, no distractions, no work. I didn't know then that my world was already cracking beneath the surface. That the foundation I'd built my life on was riddled with fault lines I couldn't see. In my dreams that night, I was back at our wedding. Olivia was adjusting my veil, whispering something I couldn't quite hear. James was waiting at the altar, but his face kept blurring, shifting into someone I didn't recognize. I woke with a start at dawn, unsettled and alone. 1 month later, you're sure you don't mind? I asked for the third time, watching as Olivia tossed her overnight bag onto my guest room bed. I know you're still settling in at the new job. Eliza, Olivia fixed me with an exasperated look. If you ask me one more time, I'm going to start thinking you don't actually want my help. Of course, I want your help, I said quickly. I just feel bad dragging you back from Seattle when you've barely been there 3 weeks. You're not dragging me anywhere, I volunteered. She began unpacking her clothes, hanging them in the guest closet with practiced efficiency. Besides, I had to come back to finish up some paperwork for my apartment sale anyway. This gives me an excuse to see my best friend before I become a full-time Seattle coffee snob. The truth was, I was grateful for her presence. Planning James's surprise birthday trip had been more stressful than anticipated, between our work schedules and his on-call rotations. Finding a weekend we could both take off had been a logistical nightmare, but I'd finally managed Ita Euro a 4-day weekend at Crystal Cove, the secluded beach resort where we'd honeymooned now. With just 2 days until we were set to leave, I was in full preparation mode. Lists were scattered across the dining room tablia, Euro things to pack, reservations to confirm, special touches I wanted to add to make the weekend perfect. So, Olivia flopped onto the bed. Walk me through Operation Rekindle the Flame. I rolled my eyes at her dramatic name for the trip, but sat beside her. Friday morning. I tell James we're going out for birthday breakfast. Instead, we drive to Crystal Cove. I've already arranged for the time off with his department head a Euro, he has no idea. I couldn't help the excited smile that spread across my face. 4 days of just us, the beach, amazing food, and absolutely no work calls. Sneaky, Olivia approved. And very romantic. James is going to love it. I hope so. I twisted my wedding ring absently. Things have been better, I think, since we talked. After our dinner a month ago, I'd taken Olivia's advice and had a real conversation with James about the distance I was feeling. It had been awkward at first a Euro, both of us tiptoeing around the elephant in the room a Euro, but eventually, we'd found our way to honesty. James had admitted, feeling the same disconnection. The same sense that our marriage had become another item on our to-do lists. We'd made small changes since then. Weekly date nights, even if they were just takeout and a movie at home. A moratorium on phones during dinner. Little text messages throughout the day a Euro, nothing profound. Just reminders that we were thinking of each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. This trip was meant to be the next step. A chance to rediscover the intimacy we'd let slip away. Earth to Eliza. Olivia waved her hand in front of my face. You disappeared on me for a minute there. Sorry, I shook my head. Just thinking about everything that needs to be done before Friday. Which is why I'm here, Olivia declared, pulling out her phone. You've got the romantic stuff covered. I'll handle the practical details. Rental car, reserved. Hotel confirmation, printed and in my folder. Sexy lingerie that will make James forget his own name, I laughed. Also packed. That's my girl, Olivia grinned. Now, what can I actually help with? I need to pick up his gift tomorrow, I said. But I also have a client meeting, I can't reschedule. Could you say no more? Olivia cut in. Text me the details, and I'll handle it. What did you get him? A vintage watch he's been eyeing for months, I said. It's being sized at Beckman's Jewelry downtown. Consider it done. Olivia's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, her expression changing subtly before she tucked it away. That's the second time you've made that face at your phone, I observed. Is everything okay? She waved dismissively. Just work stuff. The Seattle office is a bit more intense than I expected. Is it worth it? I asked. The job, the move, all of it. Olivia was quiet for a moment, her usual animation subdued. It's a great opportunity, she said finally. Career-wise, it's everything I wanted. The rest is complicated. Before I could press further, the front door opened, and James's voice called out, Eliza, you home? Upstairs, I called back. Olivia's here. Footsteps on the stairs, and then James was in the doorway, still in his hospital scrubs, his dark hair slightly rumpled. At 35, he had the kind of face that had only improved with a Gia Euro-strong jawline, warm brown eyes, smile lines that deepened when he was truly happy. Heh, stranger, he said to Olivia, stepping forward to give her a hug. Seattle treating you well? Can't complain, Olivia replied, hugging him back, though the coffee snobs are even worse than advertised. She's helping me with some work stuff this week, I explained, the lie coming easily. We'd agreed that Olivia would stay at our place until we left for the trip, then house it for the long weekend. It was the perfect cover for the surprise. Well, it's good to see you, James said, his hand finding mine automatically as he sat on the edge of the bed, even if it means I have to share my wife's attention. There was a teasing lilt to his voice, but the warmth in his eyes when he looked at me made my heart flutter. This was the James I'd fallen in love with, the man who could make me feel like the only person in the room with just a glance. How was work? I asked, leaning against his shoulder. The usual Friday chaos. 2 car accidents, a kid with a Lego stuck in his nose, and an elderly man who was convinced his new blood pressure medication was turning his skin blue. He yawned. Sorry, been up since 4 a.m. Go shower and nap, I suggested, pressing a kiss to his temple. Olivia and I are going to finalize some work stuff, and then maybe we can all grab dinner. Sounds perfect, he agreed, squeezing my hand before standing. Don't let her work you too hard, Liv. She's been putting in crazy hours lately. Pot, kettle, Olivia retorted with a smile. Go sleep, doctor, we've got this covered. As James disappeared down the hall, I caught Olivia watching him with an odd expression. What? I asked. She blinked, then smiled. Nothing, just thinking you two seem good, better than when I left. We're working on it, I said softly. It's not perfect, but ... But nothing worth having ever is. She finished for me, reaching over to squeeze my hand. I'm happy for you, Liza, really. Something in her tone made me look at her more closely, but her face revealed nothing beyond sincere affection. Thanks for being here, I said instead of pressing. For everything. Always, Olivia replied, and for just a moment, I thought I saw a shadow pass behind her eyes. But then she was standing. All business again. Now, let's nail down these last details so this birthday trip can be everything you're hoping for. Later that evening, the 3 of us sat around our kitchen table, empty Thai food containers scattered between us, wine glasses half full. It felt like old times. The easy conversation, the laughter, the sense of belonging that came from being with people who knew you completely. To the birthday boy, Olivia raised her glass toward James, who groaned. Don't remind me. 36 is dangerously close to 40. 36 is the new 26, I countered, clinking my glass against his. Besides, you're aging like fine wine, Dr. Bennett. Flattery will get you everywhere, Mrs. Bennett, he replied, his foot finding mine beneath the table. Olivia made a gagging noise. If you two are going to be disgustingly cute, I'm going to need more wine. James laughed, reaching for the bottle to refill her glass. How's the dating scene in Seattle? Found any promising candidates yet? A strange expression flickered across Olivia's face. Not really looking at the moment, she said after a beat too long. The new job is consuming all my time and energy. Since when does Olivia Reed not have time for romance? I teased. You're usually juggling at least 2 eligible bachelors at any given moment. People change, she said lightly, though something in her tone felt off. Sometimes priorities shift. James's phone buzzed on the table, and he glanced at it with a frown. Sorry, I need to take this. It's the hospital. He stood, already answering as he stepped into the living room. Dr. Bennett speaking. When he was out of earshot, I turned to Olivia. Okay, what's going on? And don't say nothing because I've known you too long to buy that. Olivia swirled her wine, not meeting my eyes. It's complicated, Liza, try me. She sighed, finally looking up. I met someone. Before I left for Seattle. It's intense, but also impossible. Impossible how? Just trust me on this one, she said, a forced smile on her lips. It's a non-starter. One of those things that's better left as a fantasy than pursued in reality. Is he married? I asked bluntly. Olivia flinched, confirming my suspicion without words. Oh, Liv, I sighed. You know better. I told you it was complicated, she said defensively. And it's over anyway. It has to be. Before I could respond, James returned, tucking his phone into his pocket. Sorry about that. One of my patients had a complication, but Dr. Sharma is handling it. He glanced between us, sensing the tension. Everything okay? Fine, Olivia and I said in unison, exchanging a look that promised we'd finish this conversation later. The rest of the evening passed pleasantly enough, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Olivia. She seemed distracted, checking her phone frequently, laughing a beat too late at James's jokes. When she excused herself to bed around 10, citing jet lag, I was almost relieved. Is she okay? James asked as we cleaned up the kitchen. She seemed, I don't know, not herself. New job stress, I think, I said, deciding to keep Olivia's confidence about the married man. Plus the whole moving to a new city thing. James nodded, accepting my explanation. It's good that you're helping her this week. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other, I corrected, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind as he loaded the dishwasher. 15 years and counting. He turned in my embrace, his hands settling on my hips. Speaking of counting, my birthday's coming up. Any hints about what you're planning? I smiled mysteriously. Not a one. But I promise you'll like it. As long as it involves you, he murmured, leaning down to kiss me. I'm sure I will. Later, as we lay in bed, James already asleep beside me, I found myself thinking about Olivia's revelation. It wasn't like her to get involved with someone unavailably a euro. She'd always been adamant about not being the other woman. Whatever this relationship had been, it must have hit her hard to make her break her own rules. I made a mental note to talk to her more about it tomorrow, to make sure she was truly okay. Then I curled against James's side, allowing his steady breathing to lull me to sleep. I didn't know then that tomorrow would bring a discovery that would shatter my world completely. The next morning was chaotic. James left early for his shift, kissing me goodbye while I was still half asleep. By the time I dragged myself to the kitchen, Olivia was already there. Dressed for the day in slim black pants and a crisp white blouse, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Morning, sunshine, she greeted, sliding a mug of coffee across the island to me. I was beginning to think you'd sleep all day. Some of us don't voluntarily wake up at the crack of dawn, I grumbled, taking a grateful sip. You're disturbingly cheerful for someone with jet lag. Fake it till you make it, she quipped. Besides, we have a busy day. You have your client meeting at 11, and I need to pick up James's watch by 2. Then we have to finish packing for your romantic getaway. I smiled despite my grogginess. Just 36 more hours. I can't wait to see his face when he realizes where we're going. He's going to be blown away, Olivia assured me. Now go get dressed while I make you some breakfast. You've got that I need protein before I can function look. I laughed, heading back upstairs to shower. By the time I returned, dressed in my work attire euro, a charcoal pencil skirt and pale blue blouse euro. Olivia had scrambled eggs, waiting, and was typing rapidly on her phone. More work fires to put out? I asked, sitting down at the island. She set the phone aside quickly. Just confirming some details about the apartment closing. Nothing exciting. She pushed the plate toward me. Eat, you've got that big Morrison meeting today, right? Right, I nodded, grateful for her memory of my schedule. If we land this account, it could mean a promotion to senior partner by next year. As if there was ever any doubt, Olivia said with affectionate pride. You're going to crush it, Liza, you always do. We chatted while I ate, going over last-minute details for the trip. Around 10, I gathered my presentation materials and headed for the door. Oh, I almost forgot, Olivia said, rummaging in her purse. My phone's acting weird, a euro keeps shutting down randomly. Can I borrow your charger? Mine's not working either. Sure, I said, already halfway out the door. There's a spare in the top drawer of my nightstand. Help yourself, and good luck with the watch. Good luck with Morrison. She called after me. Text me when you're done so I know whether to bring champagne or chocolate. The client meeting went better than I could have hoped. By 1 o'clock, I had tentative approval for my investment strategy and a promise of a signed contract by the end of the week. Elated, I texted Olivia the good news as I walked to my car. * Morrison is in. Champagne definitely called for. How did the watch pickup go? * No response came immediately, which wasn't unusual. Olivia was probably still at the jeweler's or driving. I decided to head home and start packing for the trip in earnest. The success of my meeting adding to my already buoyant mood. When I arrived home, Olivia's car wasn't in the driveway. I let myself in, calling her name just to be sure, but the house was empty. Setting my briefcase down, I headed upstairs to change into something more comfortable before tackling my packing list, in the bedroom. I noticed my phone charger on Olivia's side of the beta. She must have been using it there. I unplugged it to take downstairs, but as I did, I noticed something on the floor partially hidden by the bed skirt. Bending down, I picked up what turned out to be Olivia's phone. It must have fallen when she was using the charger. I was about to set it on the nightstand when the screen lit up with an incoming text message. I didn't mean to read Ida Euro, it was just there, suddenly visible before I could look away. Asterisk, missed you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait for Seattle. Asterisk, the sender's name made my blood run cold. James. For a long moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. There had to be an explanation, a mistake. Maybe it wasn't my James, maybe it was a different James that Olivia knew. Maybe a Euro, but even as I desperately grasped for alternatives, my fingers were already moving, swiping to unlock the phone. Olivia and I had known each other's passcodes for years. Euro, a practicality born of long friendship and trust. The message thread opened, and the world tilted beneath my feet. Asterisks, can't stop thinking about you. These stolen moments aren't enough anymore. Asterisk, asterisk, I know. Soon, I promise. Once I'm settled in Seattle, we'll figure it out. Asterisk, asterisk, what about Eliza? Asterisk, asterisk, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, let's just focus on us. Asterisk, message after message scrolled before my eyes, dating back months. Intimate exchanges, plans for secret meetings, discussions of their future together. My husband and my best friend, carrying on an affair, right under my nose. Pieces began to fall into place with sickening clarity. Olivia's sudden job opportunity in Seattle. Her distracted behavior. James's unexplained late nights at the hospital. The subtle shift in their interactions that I'd dismissed as my imagination. Photos appeared as I scrolled a Euro, images never meant for my eyes. James and Olivia together in what appeared to be hotel rooms. Intimate pictures. Loving selfies. Evidence of a relationship far deeper than a casual affair. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor, still clutching the phone. Hot tears blurred my vision, but I couldn't stop scrolling. Couldn't stop torturing myself with proof of their betrayal. It was like watching a horror movie where I was the unsuspecting victim, oblivious until the final, fatal blow. One exchange, in particular, cut deeper than the rest. Asterisk, she's planning some surprise for my birthday. Probably another tie or watch I don't need. Asterisk, asterisk, be nice. She loves you. Asterisk, asterisk, I know. That's what makes this so hard. But when I'm with you, Liv, everything else disappears. It's always been you, asterisk, asterisk, always been you. Asterisk, the words echoed in my head, each repetition another knife to my heart. Had their affair predated my relationship with James? Had I been the interloper all along without knowing it? The sound of the front door opening jolted me back to reality. I heard Olivia's voice calling my name, her footsteps on the stairs. Panic surged through me. I wasn't ready to confront her. Wasn't prepared to face this reality head-on. In a split-second decision. I placed the phone back where I'd found it and moved to the bathroom, locking the door behind me just as Olivia reached the top of the stairs. Eliza, are you home? I saw your car. In the bathroom, I managed to call out, amazed that my voice sounded almost normal. Be out in a minute. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing the pale, shocked face that stared back. How was I supposed to act normal now? How could I pretend I hadn't just discovered that the two people I trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the worst possible way? Taking a deep breath, I splashed cold water on my face and tried to compose myself. I needed time to think, to plan. If I confronted Olivia now, raw and unprepared, I'd fall apart completely. Breathe, I told myself. Asterisk, just get through the next few hours. Then decide. Asterisk, when I emerged from the bathroom, Olivia was sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone now in her hand. Had she noticed it wasn't where she left it? Was she checking to see if I'd seen the messages? Hey, she said brightly, looking up. How'd the meeting go? Your text sounded positive. I forced a smile. It was great. They loved the proposal. Each word felt like glass in my mouth. Did you get the watch? Mission accomplished, she replied, reaching into her purse to pull out a small velvet box. Want to see it? It's gorgeous. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, as she opened the box to reveal a vintage Omega watch with a brown leather strap, Euro, exactly the one James had admired months ago. The watch I'd saved for, planned for, as a symbol of my love for a man who had been lying to my face. He's going to love it, Olivia said, her smile warm and seemingly genuine. How could she sit there, pretending to be my friend, when all this time, I'm sure he will, I managed, taking the box from her with steady hands that belied the chaos inside me. Thanks for picking it up. Of course, she said, studying my face. Are you feeling okay? You look a little pale. Just tired, I lied. The Morrison meeting took a lot out of me. Why don't you lie down for a bit? She suggested. I can start organizing the packing for Friday. The thought of her handling my things, preparing for a trip she knew I was planning while exchanging secret messages with my husband, made bile rise in my throat. Actually, I said, an idea forming, would you mind running to the store? We need a few things for dinner, and I want to make James's favorite since he'll be home early tonight. Sure, Olivia agreed easily. Make me a list. I need to stop by my old apartment anyway. Euro forgot a few things when I was there yesterday. I scribbled a list of unnecessary items, things I knew we already had or didn't need, just to get her out of the house. As soon as her car pulled away from the curb, I sat down at my laptop and began to search flight information. Hotel reservations, Crystal Cove contact numbers. One by one, I compiled what I needed, my mind working with cold mechanical precision even as my heart felt like it was being shredded. By the time Olivia returned an hour later, I had formulated a plan. Not a good plan, perhaps, but the only one my shattered psyche could manage. Got everything, she announced, setting bags on the kitchen counter. Though I had to go to 2 stores to find that specific pasta brand you wanted. Thanks, I said, helping her unpack groceries, as if this were any normal day. James texted Euro, he's definitely getting off early tonight. Around 7. This was a lie. I hadn't heard from James since morning, and I didn't want to risk texting him now, afraid my words would somehow reveal what I knew. Perfect, Olivia said. That gives us time to cook a proper dinner. Should we open that champagne to celebrate your Morrison win? Let's save it, I suggested, for when James gets home, make it a proper celebration. The next few hours passed in a surreal blur. I cooked beside Olivia, engaging in meaningless conversation, laughing at her jokes, all while a hurricane raged inside me. Every smile she gave me, every casual touch, every shared memory she referenced felt like another betrayal. Another confirmation that the friendship I'd treasured for 15 years had been a lie Euro, or at least had twisted into something unrecognizable. At 6:30, I excused myself to shower and change, needing a few moments alone to steady my nerves for what was coming. Under the hot spray, I finally allowed myself to cry Euro silent, body-racking sobs that left me feeling hollow but somehow clearer. By the time I heard James's key in the lock at 7:15, I was dressed in his favorite blue dress Euro. The same one I'd worn to dinner with Olivia a month ago Euro. With my hair loose around my shoulders and a placid smile fixed on my face. Something smells amazing, he called as he entered, setting his bag down by the door. He looked tired but happy, his face lighting up when he saw me. The sight of that smilier Euro, the same one he'd given me on our wedding day Euro sent a fresh wave of pain through my chest. Olivia and I made your favorite, I said, moving to kiss his cheek as if nothing had changed, as if my world hadn't collapsed hours before. Chicken parmesan with that imported pasta you love. What's the occasion? He asked, his arm sliding around my waist in a gesture that now made my skin crawl. My Morrison's success, I said lightly. And an early birthday celebration. His eyes flickered briefly Euro guilt, concern. I couldn't tell anymore. Couldn't trust my ability to read him when I'd missed such obvious signs for who knew how long. Congratulations, he said, squeezing my shoulder. I knew you'd land it. Olivia appeared from the kitchen, 3 wine glasses in hand. The chef demands wine with dinner, she announced. No exceptions. James laughed, releasing me to take a glass. Who am I to argue with the chef? We moved to the dining room where the table was set, Budophilia Euro Olivia's doing, during one of my brief escapes to collect myself. The food was arranged, candles lit, wine poured. A picture-perfect dinner among friends. Or a last supper before execution. To Eliza, James raised his glass. The most brilliant financial mind I know. Morrison is lucky to have you. To Eliza, Olivia echoed, her eyes warm as they met mine. Who deserves every success? I raised my own glass, a different toast forming on my lips. To honesty, I said softly, and to seeing things clearly. If they noticed anything strange in my words, neither showed it. We ate, we talked, we acted out the roles of husband, wife, and friend, as if it were any normal evening. I answered questions about the Morrison account, laughed at James's story about the Lego extraction, complimented Olivia on the pasta sauce. All the while, my mind was elsewhere, detached from this performance. Focused on the next hours, the next steps in the plan that had crystallized during my shower. After dinner, as James helped clear the plates, I casually mentioned the watch. "Oh, I almost forgot. Olivia picked up your birthday present today. I know it's a few days early, but..." I shrugged, retrieving the velvet box from where I'd hidden it in the sideboard drawer. James looked genuinely surprised as I handed it to him. "Liza, you didn't have Toa Euro open it," I encouraged, watching his face carefully. His expression when he saw the watch was everything I'd hoped for. Weeks ago, a Euro delight, appreciation, love. Now it just twisted the knife deeper. "It's the one from Beckman's," he said, clearly touched. "I can't believe you remembered." "I remember everything," I said, the words heavy with unintended meaning. He leaned down to kiss me, and it took every ounce of willpower I possessed not to turn away. "Thank you," he murmured. "It's perfect. Why don't you two take your wine to the living room?" Olivia suggested. "I'll finish up in here." "Don't be silly," James protested. "You cooked, I'll clean." "Actually," I interjected, "I wanted to talk to Olivia about some Seattle recommendation for that business trip I might have next month." Another lie, falling easily from my lips. "Why don't you go relax? It's been a long day for you." James hesitated but ultimately nodded. "If you insist, but save me some of that chocolate dessert thing in the fridge." It looked sinful. Once he was out of earshot, Olivia turned to me. "Seattle recommendations, what business trip?" "It might not happen," I said vaguely, running water in the sink. "But better to be prepared." We worked in companionable silence, for a few minutes, loading the dishwasher, wiping down counters. From the living room came the sound of the TV, James watching highlights from a basketball game he'd missed. "I should probably head to bed soon," Olivia said eventually. "Early flight tomorrow, remember?" I froze, my hand gripping the dish towel too tightly. "Flight? You're going back to Seattle tomorrow? I thought you were house-sitting this weekend while we're gone." Olivia's eyes widened slightly. A Euro, the first genuine reaction I'd seen from her all evening. "Oh, right," she said quickly. "I mean to Euro, I have a video call with Seattle. Early." She laughed, the sound slightly forced. "God, I'm more tired than I realized. Getting my days mixed up." It was a clumsy lie, and we both knew it. She hadn't expected me to catch the slip. "Right," I said slowly. "The video call." She nodded, avoiding my eyes as she dried her hands. "Think I'll head up now, if that's okay. Still fighting that jet lag?" "Of course," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "Sleep well, Liv." She disappeared upstairs, and I remained in the kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles turned white. There was no video call. There was never going to be any house-sitting. The plan, I now realized with sickening clarity, had been for Olivia to return to Seattle while James claimed to be with me on our romantic getaway. The perfect opportunity for them to be together without raising suspicions. I moved mechanically to the living room where James was sprawled on the couch, the new watch already on his wrist. He smiled when he saw me, patting the space beside him. "Come watch with me." "Actually," I said, "I'm feeling a bit off. Think I might have a migraine coming on. I'm going to take something and lie down." Concern immediately crossed his face. "Do you need anything? Water, your prescription?" "All ready." "Took it," I assured him, touched despite myself by his genuine worry. Had it all been an act? The caring husband, the devoted friend? Or were there pieces of truth mixed in with the lies? "I just need to sleep it off." "Don't stay up to Latia Euro early day tomorrow." He nodded, rising to press a kiss to my forehead. "Feel better, love." In our bedroom, I changed into pajamas and slipped beneath the covers, leaving the lights off to maintain the migraine pretense. But sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. Instead, I lay in the darkness, my phone clutched in my hand, waiting. Around midnight, I heard James come upstairs. He moved quietly in the bathroom, then carefully slid into bed beside me, clearly trying not to wake me. Within 20 minutes, his breathing had deepened into sleep. I waited another hour, counting his breaths, before carefully extracting myself from the bed. Moving silently, I gathered the bag I'd packed earlier and hidden in the back of my closet. Inside were essentials: a Euro clothes, toiletries, important documents. Some Cassia Euro enough to get me through the next few days. Downstairs, I left an envelope on the dining room table. Inside was a printed itinerary for Crystal Covia Euro, the romantic getaway. I'd planned so carefully. A Euro along with a brief note, *, surprise. Your birthday trip is still on. I've already checked in. Olivia's flight to Seattle leaves at 10 a.m. Enjoy your weekend together. You deserve each other. Asterisk asterisk e asterisk. Then I slipped out the front door into the cool night air. My wedding ring left beside the envelope, gleaming under the dining room light. The motel 40 miles outside the city wasn't exactly the beachfront luxury of Crystal Cove, but it served its purpose. Anonymous, paid in cash, with decent Wi-Fi and a do not disturb sign, I immediately hung on the door. By the time the watery sunlight of dawn filtered through the thin curtains, I'd been awake for hours, systematically dismantling the life I'd built. Email to my boss, asterisk family emergency. Need to use accumulated vacation days, effective immediately. Will contact upon return. Text to my mother, staying with a friend for a few days. Everything's fine. Will explain later. Love you. Asterisk, call to Crystal Cove, yes. I'd like to confirm the reservation for Bennett is still active. No, there's been a change of plans. My husband and his friend will be using it instead. I'd activated the location tracking on James's phone during the night, a feature we'd set up years ago for safety that I'd never had reason to use until now. By 9 a.m., I watched his dot moving rapidly toward the airport. So predictable. So easily manipulated. Even now, my phone had been buzzing steadily since around 7 a.m, first with texts, then calls. I read the texts but answered none of the calls. James, asterisk Eliza. Where are you? We need to talk. James, please call me. This isn't what you think. James, I love you. We can fix this. Olivia, Liza, please answer your phone. I'm so sorry. Olivia, we never meant to hurt you. Olivia, at least let us know you're safe. Asterisk the audacity of their concern almost made me laugh. A harsh, broken sound in the empty motel room. They were worried about me now. After months of deception. After planning to use my loving gesture as cover for their affair. Around noon, a new text from James. Asterisk, we're at Crystal Cove. Can we please talk? Asterisk, so they'd gone through with it. Part of me had wondered if they would have the nerve. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and began methodically gathering evidence. It wasn't difficult. They'd been careless, confident in my ignorance. Credit card statements showed hotel charges on nights James had claimed to be working late. Phone records revealed the frequency and duration of their calls. Social media timestamps placed them in the same locations when they were supposedly apart. It was like archaeology, excavating the ruins of my marriage and friendship layer by painful layer. Each discovery hurt less than the last. Numbness gradually replacing the raw agony of the initial betrayal. By evening, I had compiled everything into a single documenta, a forensic accounting of deception. I titled it simply, The Truth. Then I booked a car service for the following morning. Asterisk, 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 Crystal Cove Resort was exactly as beautiful as I remembered from our honeymoon. Pristine beaches. Elegant cottages nestled among swaying palms. The sound of waves, a constant, soothing backdrop. Under different circumstances, it would have been the perfect setting for reconnection and romance. Now it would be the stage for a very different scene. I'd timed my arrival, carefully, late enough in the morning that they would likely be out of the cottage but not so late that they'd be difficult to locate. The resort wasn't large. And I knew James's habits well enough to predict where they might be. Sure enough, I spotted them at the beachside copyright, seated at a corner table with a view of the ocean. They were leaning toward each other, hands almost touching beside a half-empty bottle of champagne. My champagne. I realized with a bitter twist, the special vintage I'd ordered weeks ago, as part of the package. For a moment, I simply observed them from a distance. James looked troubled, his usual easy confidence replaced by a tense alertness. Olivia was speaking intently, her auburn hair catching the sunlight as she gestured. Neither looked particularly happy for a couple finally free to be together. Good. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed down the front of my white sundress, chosen deliberately for its symbolism of purity and innocencia, and walked toward their table with measured steps. I was perhaps 20 feet away when Olivia saw me first, her eyes widening with shock as the color drained from her face. Eliza, she breathed, the single word causing James to whip around in his seat. He stood immediately, knocking his chair backward in his haste. Eliza, thank God. We've been so worried. Please. I cut him off, my voice surprisingly steady. Let's not insult each other with pretenses. May I join you? Without waiting for an answer, I pulled out a chair and sat, placing my purse carefully on the table. The waiter approached, but I waved him away with a polite smile. Liza, Olivia began, her voice trembling slightly. We need to explain €1. Explain what, exactly? I asked mildly. The affair you've been having with my husband. The lies you've both told me for, how long has it been? 6 months? A year? James reached for my hand, but I pulled away before he could touch me. It started 4 months ago, he said quietly. After Olivia got the Seattle offer. I laughed, the sound hollow even to my own ears. Is that supposed to make me feel better? That you only betrayed me for 1/3 of a year, instead of half. We never planned for this to happen, Olivia said, tears welling in her eyes. It just did. Things don't just happen, Liv, I replied, emphasizing her nickname with subtle venom. Affairs require choices. Deliberate, repeated choices to lie, to sneak around, to betray the people who trust you. I know, she whispered, a tear spilling down her cheek. And there's nothing I can say to make that right. But you have to know how much I love you, Liza. You're my best friend €1. No, I interrupted sharply. Best friends don't sleep with each other's husbands. Best friends don't use 15 years of trust and intimacy as cover for betrayal. I turned to James. And husbands don't cheat on wives who are planning surprise trips to rekindle their marriage. James flinched. The trip, it made everything so much worse. Knowing how hard you were trying while I was... He couldn't finish the sentence. While you were fucking my best friend. I supplied, my crude language causing nearby diners to glance our way. Is that the phrase you're struggling with? Eliza, please, he begged, his voice breaking. I know I've hurt you terribly. We both have. But I still love you €1. Don't you dare, I hissed, leaning forward. Don't you dare say those words to me when they clearly mean nothing to you. They do mean something, he insisted. This thing with Olivia. It's complicated. But it doesn't erase what we have €1, what we've built together. I corrected. What we had together. And what exactly is this thing with Olivia? A fling, a grand passion, true love. I looked between them. I'm curious how you're categorizing the destruction of my life. Olivia and James exchanged a glance. €. One of those wordless communications that spoke of deep intimacy. €. And something inside me hardened further. We don't know, Olivia admitted finally. That's part of why we came here. To figure out what this is, what we want. How considerate of you to use my romantic gesture as an opportunity for clarity, I said. And what have you decided? Are you star-crossed lovers destined to be together? Or just a selfish people who couldn't control their baser impulses? James ran a hand through his hair. €, a familiar gesture that now made me want to scream. We haven't decided anything. We've been too worried about you. Touching, I remarked. Though your concern would be more convincing if you hadn't come to the resort anyway. We thought you might be here, Olivia explained quickly. That maybe you'd changed the reservation to just yourself. We wanted to find you, to make sure you were okay. And the champagne. I nodded toward the bottle. Part of the search and rescue operation. They had the grace to look ashamed. This isn't who we are, Liza, Olivia said softly. We made terrible mistakes. Buddha, no. I cut her off again. This is exactly who you are. Your actions define you. And your actions have shown me exactly what kind of people I've surrounded myself with. I took a deep breath. But that's not why I'm here. I reached into my purse and withdrew a thick envelope, placing it on the table between us. Inside, you'll find documentation of your affair, dates, times, locations, communications I've been able to recover. It's quite comprehensive. James paled. What are you going to do with that? That depends entirely on what happens next, I said calmly. I have a proposal for both of you. They waited, tension radiating from them in palpable waves. Olivia, you will return to Seattle today. You will never contact me again, not to explain, not to apologize, not to check in on how I'm doing. You are excised from my life completely. She flinched but nodded slowly, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. James, I continued, turning to my husband. You will move out of our house by the time I return on Monday. You will initiate divorce proceedings with a settlement that acknowledges your infidelity. You will make no claims on my separate assets or future earnings. Eliza, he began, but I raised a hand to silence him. I'm not finished. Neither of you will attempt to rewrite this narrative to friends or family. You will not paint me as unreasonable, unwilling to work things out, or in any way responsible for the collapse of my marriage or friendship. You betrayed me. That is the beginning and end of the story. I leaned forward, my voice lowering to ensure only they could hear my next words. If you fail to comply with any part of this agreement, copies of everything in this envelope will be sent to the hospital board, to Olivia's new employers, to our families, and to every mutual friend we have. Your reputations will not survive it, I promise you. You're blackmailing us? James asked incredulously. I prefer to think of it as ensuring mutual understanding, I replied coolly. You destroyed my world for your pleasure. The least you can do is make the aftermath as painless as possible. We'll do it, Olivia said before James could respond. Whatever you need, Liza. You deserve that much from us. I stood, smoothing my dress again. I have nothing more to say to either of you. Enjoy the rest of your stay. The cottage is paid through Sunday. As I turned to leave, James called after me, his voice breaking. Eliza, wait, please. I need to know €1. Will you ever forgive us? I paused, considering the question with genuine reflection. Then I looked back at the €1, my husband and best friend, the two people I had trusted most in the world, €1, and felt nothing but a vast, echoing emptiness where love and friendship had once resided. No, I said simply. I don't think I will. Without waiting for their response, I walked away, my steps growing lighter with each foot of distance I put between us. By the time I reached the resort entrance, I was almost floating, untethered, from the anchors that had both secured and constrained me for so long. The future stretched before me, uncertain, frightening, but undeniably mine alone. 6 months later, the Seattle skyline glittered beneath a rare clear winter sky as I gazed out from the rooftop bar of the Archer Hotel. 40 stories below, the city pulsed with evening energy, Euro headlights tracing patterns along grid-like streets, fairy lights blinking across Elliott Bay, the Space Needle illuminated against the darkening horizon. Beautiful view, remarked Daniel Carson, leaning against the railing beside me, his glass of scotch catching the ambient light. Though I'm still not sure why you insisted on Seattle for this meeting. New York would have been more convenient for both of us. I smiled, sipping my martini Euro dirty, extra olives. Some habits survived even seismic life changes. Seattle has better coffee, I offered, which was true but not the real reason. Besides, I wanted to personally walk through the acquisition details with the Horizon team, put faces to names. Also true, but still not the whole truth. Daniel nodded, accepting my explanation without pressing. That was one of the things I appreciated about my new business partner, his ability to read situations and people without forcing confidences. In the 6 months since I'd left Henderson Financial to start my own investment firm, Daniel had proven himself not just a brilliant financial strategist, but also a perceptive and trustworthy colleague. They seemed impressed by the proposal, he said, referring to our afternoon meeting with Horizon Advertising's executive team. Especially the creative directora, what was her name again? Reed, I supplied, my voice neutral. Olivia, Reed. Right, Daniel nodded. Sharp woman. Asked all the right questions about the merger implications. I made a non-committal sound, my eyes fixed on the city lights. The truth was, Olivia hadn't recognized me at first in the conference room. I'd changed in the past 6 months, cut my hair into a sleek bob, lost weight I hadn't needed to lose. Developed a preference for power suits in jewel tones that my former self would have considered too bold. When recognition finally dawned midway through my presentation, the color had drained from her face so rapidly I'd thought she might faint. To her credit, she'd maintained her professional composure throughout the meeting, asking relevant questions in a steady voice that only occasionally trembled. She had no idea I'd specifically targeted Horizon for acquisition when I learned they were struggling financially. No idea that I'd spent months positioning my fledgling firm for this exact maneuver. No idea that while the acquisition made perfect business sense, diversifying our portfolio into digital marketing was strategically sound. My primary motivation had been far more personal. Are you sure you're okay? Daniel asked, breaking into my thoughts. You've been intense since we landed. I turned to face him, appreciating his concern while maintaining my boundaries. In the months we'd worked together, Daniel had made his interest in me clear without being pushy. Under different circumstances, I might have been tempted to explore the possibility. He was attractive, intelligent, and kind to everything I should want in a potential partner. But I wasn't ready. Might never be ready again. The ability to trust had been shattered along with my marriage and friendship, leaving behind a wariness I couldn't seem to shed. I'm fine, I assured him. Just thinking about next steps, which are, I'll be staying in Seattle for a few extra days, I said. There are some details of the acquisition I want to handle personally. Daniel raised an eyebrow but didn't question my decision. Want company? I could reschedule my flight. That's not necessary, I said, gentler than I might have 6 months ago. Growth, my therapist would call it. But thank you for offering. He nodded, finishing his scotch. In that case, I should probably turn in. Early flight tomorrow. We said our goodnights, and I remained on the rooftop alone, nursing my second martini as the temperature dropped and other patrons gradually departed. By 11, I had the space largely to myself, which suited my contemplative mood. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Asterisk, how's Seattle? Your father says to remind you about Sunday dinner when you're back. Asterisk, the normalcy of it made me smile. I'd told my parents an abbreviated version of what happened with James and Olivia, Euro enough that they understood the marriage was irretrievably broken but not the full, humiliating details. They'd been supportive in their way, giving me space while making it clear I wasn't alone. Seattle is wet but beautiful, I texted back. Tell Dad I'll bring that Cabernet he likes on Sunday. As I slipped my phone back into my pocket, the elevator doors opened, and a familiar figure stepped onto the rooftop. I wasn't surprised. Hurt has a way of creating its own gravity, pulling the source of pain back into orbit just when you think you've escaped. Olivia hesitated when she saw me, clearly uncertain if her presence was welcome. It wasn't, but I made no move to leave. This confrontation had been 6 months in the Makinga Euro, might as well get it over with. She approached slowly, stopping a respectful distance away. Is it okay if I join you?
It's a public space, I replied, neither inviting nor rebuffing. She took this as permission enough and moved to the railing beside me, maintaining several feet of separation. She looked different to a Euro, thinner, with new lines etched around her eyes and mouth. Her auburn hair was shorter, less vibrant. Seattle hadn't been kind to her. I didn't know you were behind the acquisition, she said after a long silence. Not until today. Would it have mattered if you had? She considered this. I might have resigned before the deal went through. That would have been a mistake, I said. Your position is secure. I don't mix business with personal vendettas. She flinched at the implied rebuke. Is that what this is? A vendetta? No, I said honestly. It's a sound business decision that happens to have the side benefit of reminding you that actions have consequences. I deserve that, she acknowledged quietly. I deserve far worse. We stood in silence for several minutes, the city noise rising from below while a cold breeze whispered between us. How is James? I asked finally, surprising myself with the question. Olivia's expression tightened. I wouldn't know. We haven't spoken in 5 months. This genuinely surprised me. What happened to true love? It wasn't. She began, then sighed. After Crystal Cove, we tried to make it work. Moved in together in a place downtown. But it was poisoned from the start. Every moment together was shadowed by what we'd done to you. Guilt is a powerful deterrent, I observed dispassionately. It wasn't just guilt, Olivia said. It was clarity. Once the secrecy and forbidden aspect was gone, once we had to face the reality of what we'd broken to be together Euro, she broke off, shaking her head. I'm not saying this right. I don't want it to sound like I'm making excuses. Then don't, I suggested. Just tell me what happened. She nodded, gathering her thoughts. We destroyed each other, she said simply. Every argument circled back to you. Every attempt at happiness felt stolen. We couldn't build anything real on the foundation of such betrayal. So, the affair that was worth sacrificing our friendship and my marriage lasted. What? A month after you were free to be together? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. It was never worth it, Olivia whispered. Not for a single moment. She turned to face me fully. I know you don't want my apology, but I need to give it anyway. I am so deeply sorry, Eliza. What I did to you was unforgivable. Yes, I agreed. It was. She nodded, accepting this. James moved back to Chicago. Took a position at his old hospital there. He's not doing well, from what mutual friends say. I felt a distant pang at this news, but no real grief. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago, proceeding exactly as I demanded that day at Crystal Cove. James had complied with every condition without argument, signing away rights he could have fought for, accepting terms that heavily favored me. "And you?" I asked. "Are you doing well?" Olivia gave a hollow laugh. "I lost my best friend and destroyed a good man's life because I couldn't control my own selfishness. What do you think?" "I think you're looking for absolution I can't give you," I said honestly. "I'm not," she protested. "I just want you to know that I understand now, truly understand, the magnitude of what I did. And that not a day goes by that I don't regret it with every fiber of my being." I studied her face, searching for the friend I'd once loved like a sister. There were echoes of her there, beneath the weight of remorse and self-recrimination, but the Olivia I'd trusted was gone as surely as the Eliza I'd been was gone. "I believe you," I said finally, "but it doesn't change anything." She nodded, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "I know. I miss you, Liza. Every day." The old nickname sent a sharp pain through my chest, a reminder of all that had been lost. "I've moved on," I told her, not unkindly. "You should too." "Is that what you've done?" she asked softly. "Moved on? Are you happy?" It was a complex question, one I'd been asking myself for months. Was I happy? Not in the uncomplicated way I'd been before discovering their betrayal. But there was a certain satisfaction in the life I'd built from the ashes of that devastation. My new investment firm was thriving. I'd reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I'd even started painting a gynae, a passion I'd abandoned years ago when career and relationship demands had consumed my time. "I'm becoming," I said carefully, "the person I'm meant to be now. The person who emerged from what you two did." Olivia wiped away tears. "I hope she's someone who can find happiness again someday." "She already has," I realized as I spoke the words. Just not the kind of happiness she expected. We fell silent again, the weight of our shared past and divergent futures hanging between us. Finally, Olivia straightened, composing herself. "I should go," she said. "Thank you for hearing me out." I nodded, neither accepting nor rejecting her gratitude. She took a few steps toward the elevator, then paused. "Will I see you tomorrow? At the follow-up meeting?" "No," I said. "Daniel will handle it. I have other matters to attend to." Relief and disappointment mingled in her expression. "Goodbye, Eliza." "Goodbye, Olivia." I watched her disappear into the elevator, a strange sense of closure settling over me. Not forgiveness, I'd meant what I said at Crystal Cove about Theta, but perhaps something adjacent to it. A recognition that the pain they'd caused had transformed me in ways that weren't entirely negative. The woman who had thrown that wedding photo against the wall 6 months ago would never have had the courage to leave her secure position and start her own firm. Would never have developed the ruthless business instincts that had allowed me to orchestrate this acquisition. Would never have discovered the strength that came from complete self-reliance. I finished my martini and took one last look at the Seattle skyline, the city that had once represented their escape now serving as the backdrop for my reclamation. Then I turned away from the view, from the ghosts of betrayal, from the remnants of who I'd been. In the elevator descending to my suite, I deleted the draft email I'd prepared weeks ago, contingency plans for firing Olivia once the acquisition was complete. There was no need for further retribution. Her punishment was living with what she'd done, just as my reward was living beyond it. Tomorrow, I would visit the Seattle Art Museum, then have dinner at that acclaimed restaurant on the waterfront everyone raved about. I would enjoy the city as a tourist, a businesswoman, a person becoming herself. And when I returned to New York, perhaps I would take Daniel up on that dinner invitation he'd been hinting at for months. Not because I was ready for a relationship, I might never fully trust a guy in a euro, but because I was ready to discover what else life might hold beyond the betrayal that had once defined me. The elevator doors opened on my floor, and I stepped out with lighter shoulders than I'd had in 6 months. Ahead stretched a future entirely of my own making, uncertain and sometimes frightening, but undeniably mine. Alone, but no longer lonely. Scarred, but no longer bleeding. Becoming.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.